Have you ever wondered what it would be like to leave everything you know behind and sail across a vast ocean? Well, that is exactly what a small group of people did over 400 years ago. We call them the Pilgrims. They lived in England, but they had different ideas about faith and worship than the king. They wanted the freedom to believe in their own way without being told what to do. This desire for freedom was so strong that they decided to make a very brave and dangerous choice. To start a new life in a new land far, far away across the Atlantic Ocean. It was a journey that would test their courage in every possible way. So in the year 1620, about 100 men, women, and children crowded onto a small wooden ship called the Mayflower. Imagine being on a boat for 2 whole months with stormy seas and cold winds rocking you back and forth. The space below deck was cramped and dark, and there wasn't much fresh food or clean water to go around. Many people became very sick during the long voyage, but they held on to their hope, dreaming of a place where they could build their own community and practice their religion freely. Their hope was like a little candle flickering in the dark, guiding them toward an unknown shore and an uncertain future. After more than 60 long days at sea, a lookout finally shouted the words everyone had been waiting to hear. Land ho! The Pilgrims had reached the shores of a place they called the New World, which we now know as America. They landed in what is now Massachusetts, just as the cold breath of winter was beginning to settle over the land. The forests were thick and unfamiliar, and they knew nothing about the world they had just entered. They were tired, hungry, and far from home, but they had made it. They had crossed the great ocean, ready to face the challenges of building a new life from scratch. The Pilgrims knew they needed rules to live by in this new place, so even before they left the ship, they wrote an important agreement called the Mayflower Compact. This was a promise they made to each other to work together and create fair laws for everyone in their new colony. It was one of the first times in history that a group of people decided to govern themselves. They were not just building houses, they were building a new society based on cooperation and shared responsibility. This simple document showed their determination to create a community where everyone had a voice, setting the stage for the incredible story that was about to unfold. The Pilgrims' arrival did not bring immediate relief. Instead, it marked the beginning of their greatest trial. They had landed as winter was tightening its icy grip on the coast of New England. The air was bitingly cold, and the ground was hard and frozen, making it nearly impossible to plant crops or build sturdy homes quickly. They had to stay on the Mayflower while some of the men went ashore to construct simple shelters. The conditions were harsh, and the small group of settlers was completely unprepared for the brutal reality of a North American winter. Now, their dream of a new beginning was met with a fight for simple survival against the powerful forces of nature. That first winter was a time of immense suffering and loss for the small colony, which they named Plymouth. Sickness spread quickly through their small community. Because of the long journey and the lack of proper food and shelter, many pilgrims grew weak. Diseases like pneumonia and scurvy took a heavy toll on the settlers, who huddled together in their cold, damp shelters trying to stay warm. Every day was a struggle to find enough food and to care for the sick. It seemed as if the cold and the darkness would never end, and their hopes for a prosperous new life began to fade with each passing day. The cost of that first winter was heartbreakingly high. By the time the first signs of spring began to appear, With birds returning and the ice starting to melt, the Pilgrim community had been torn apart by tragedy. Nearly half of the original 100 passengers who had sailed on the Mayflower did not survive. At one point, only a handful of people were healthy enough to care for all the others who were sick and dying. They buried their loved ones in the frozen ground, often at night, so that any watching eyes would not see how few of them remained. It was a time of deep sorrow and fear. Despite the terrible losses, the surviving Pilgrims did not give up. Their faith and their promise to one another kept them going. They believed they were being tested, and they held on with incredible strength and determination. As the snow finally melted and the days grew longer, they knew they had to find a way to make this new land their home. They had survived the worst of the winter, but they were still weak, hungry, and alone in a vast wilderness. They desperately needed help, and thankfully, help was much closer than they could have ever imagined. The few who were left stood together, ready to face an unknown future. Long before the Mayflower ever crossed the ocean, the land the Pilgrims now called Plymouth was home to a proud and thriving community of Native Americans. They were the Wampanoag Nation, also known as the people of the first light, because they were the first to see the sun rise each morning on the eastern coast. For thousands of years, their ancestors had lived in this region in harmony with the seasons. They knew the forests, the rivers, and the coast like the back of their hands. Yeah, they had their own rich culture with their own government, traditions, stories, and deep spiritual connection to the earth that provided for them. The Wampanoag lived in villages made up of homes called wadis. These were dome-shaped houses made from saplings and covered with bark or woven mats, which kept them warm in the winter and cool in the summer. They were expert farmers, hunters, and fishermen. The women cultivated fields of corn, beans, and squash. 3 important crops they called the Three Sisters. The men hunted deer and other game in the dense forests and fished for cod, bass, and eel in the rivers and ocean. Their lives were guided by the changing seasons, and they had a deep respect for the natural world, understanding that they were a part of it, not separate from it. However, the arrival of European ships before the Pilgrims had brought great tragedy to the Wampanoag. These earlier explorers and traders carried invisible dangers, diseases to which the Native Americans had no immunity. Sickness swept through the coastal villages, and in the years just before the Pilgrims arrived, tens of thousands of Wampanoag people perished. Entire villages were wiped out, leaving behind empty homes and abandoned fields. This great tragedy weakened the Wampanoag Nation and changed the balance of power among the different Native American tribes in the region. The world they had known for generations was suddenly and sadly altered forever. The leader of the Wampanoag at this time was a wise and powerful sachem or chief named Massasoit. He ruled over a large territory that included the land where the Pilgrims had settled. Massasoit was a thoughtful and strategic leader who was worried about the future of his people. The devastating diseases had left his tribe vulnerable to their rivals, the Narragansett tribe, who had been less affected. When Massasoit saw the small, struggling group of English settlers, he did not immediately see them as a threat. Instead, he saw a potential opportunity. An alliance with these newcomers and their powerful weapons could help protect his people. Just when the Pilgrims were at their lowest point, a Native American man walked boldly into their settlement and surprised them by speaking to them in English. His name was Samoset, and he had learned some of the language from English fishermen. He soon returned with another man whose story was one of the most incredible of all. His name was Tisquantum, but we know him today as Squanto. He belonged to the Patuxet tribe, a part of the Wampanoag nation, and his life had been a journey of unimaginable hardship and unbelievable survival. Squanto would become the key to the Pilgrims' survival and a bridge between two very different cultures. Years earlier, before the Pilgrims had even dreamed of leaving England, Squanto had been captured by an English explorer and taken across the ocean to be sold into slavery in Spain. It was a cruel and terrifying experience, but Squanto was smart and resilient. He managed to escape and made his way to England, where he lived for several years and learned to speak the English language fluently. He longed to return to his home and his people, and eventually he found a way to travel back to North America as a guide on another expedition. His journey had taken him across the world and back again. When Squanto finally returned to his village of Patuxet, the very place where the Pilgrims were now trying to build their colony, he was met with a devastating silence. His entire tribe, everyone he had ever known and loved, his family, his friends, was gone. They had all been wiped out by the diseases that had swept through the region while he was away. Imagine the heartbreak of finally coming home only to find that you are the last of your people. Squanto was now utterly alone, a stranger in his own land, haunted by the ghosts of his past. Despite his personal tragedy, Squanto chose to help the struggling English settlers. He went to live with the Pilgrims, and because he could speak both English and the Wampanoag language, he became their interpreter and teacher. He was the link that connected the Pilgrims to Massasoit and the Wampanoag people. He could have chosen revenge for what had been done to him by other Europeans, but instead, he chose a path of peace and cooperation. His unique position and his willingness to help created a bond of trust that would prove essential for the survival of the Plymouth colony. With Squanto as their guide, the Pilgrims began to learn the secrets of this new land that had once seemed so hostile. They were farmers from England, but their methods did not work in the different soil and climate of New England. Squanto showed them the Wampanoag way of planting, which was honestly perfectly suited to the environment. He taught them how to plant corn, an unfamiliar crop to them, in small mounds of earth. Most importantly, he showed them how to use fish like alewives as fertilizer, placing one in each mound to provide vital nutrients to help the corn grow tall and strong. This was knowledge that had been passed down through generations of Wampanoag farmers. Squanto's lessons went far beyond the cornfields. He was a master of the wilderness and taught the Pilgrims how to live off the land. He led them to the best places to fish in the rivers and streams, showing them how to catch eels by stomping them out of the river mud. He taught them which nuts and berries in the forest were safe to eat and which were poisonous. He showed them how to tap maple trees to collect their sweet sap. For the Pilgrims who had been on the brink of starvation, these lessons were a miracle. They were no longer just surviving, they were learning how to thrive. Thanks to Squanto's guidance, a formal alliance was made between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people. Squanto acted as the diplomat, helping Governor John Carver and Sachem Massasoit communicate and agree on a treaty of mutual protection. This agreement stated that they would not harm each other and that they would help defend one another if attacked by an enemy. This alliance was beneficial for both sides. For the Pilgrims, it meant peace and security. For Massasoit, it meant having allies with powerful muskets who could help protect his people from their rivals. It was a partnership born out of necessity. As the months passed, the Plymouth colony began to grow stronger. The simple wooden houses were finished. The fields were green with growing crops, and the community was filled with a new sense of hope. The friendship between the Pilgrims and their Wampanoag neighbors deepened through shared experiences and mutual respect. The Wampanoag people shared their knowledge generously, and the Pilgrims, in turn, shared what they had. And this period of cooperation was a testament to what can be achieved when people choose to look past their differences and work together for a common good, turning a strange and frightening land into a place of possibility. As the summer of 1621 faded into autumn, the Pilgrims looked out upon their fields with a sense of wonder and deep gratitude. The corn stood tall and golden, the beans were plentiful, and the orange squash dotted the fields. Their first harvest in the New World was a success, and it was bountiful beyond their wildest dreams. After the terrible suffering of the previous winter, this abundance felt like a true blessing. They knew they would not have to face the coming cold with empty stomachs. They had enough food to last them through the winter, and for the first time, they felt secure in their new home. The governor of the Plymouth colony, William Bradford, decided that they must celebrate this incredible turnaround. He wanted to organize a special harvest festival to give thanks for their good fortune. This was not just about celebrating the food, it was about celebrating their survival. They had overcome so much: the dangerous ocean voyage, the brutal winter, the sickness, and the fear. This feast would be a moment to pause and recognize the hand of friendship that had been extended to them. It was a time to rejoice in the new life they were building and to give thanks for the peace and plenty they now enjoyed, to show their gratitude and to honor the alliance that had made their survival possible. The Pilgrims invited their Wampanoag friends to join them in the celebration. Governor Bradford sent an invitation to the great Sachem Massasoit. The Wampanoag leader arrived for the feast not alone, but with 90 of his men. The Pilgrims, who numbered only around 50 men, women, and children, were likely surprised by the large number of guests, but they welcomed them warmly. This gathering was more than just a meal. It was a diplomatic event, a symbol of the peace and cooperation that existed between the two communities. This coming together of two vastly different cultures was a remarkable moment in history. Imagine the scene: the small, simply dressed group of English settlers and the large, powerful contingent of Wampanoag warriors, all gathering together in the small Plymouth settlement. They did not share a language, a religion, or a way of life. Yet, for a brief moment in time, they shared a sense of community and a feeling of mutual respect. The Harvest Festival was a powerful symbol of hope, showing that people from different worlds could find common ground and share in the simple, universal joy of a good harvest. The celebration we now call the first Thanksgiving was not just a single dinner, it was a festival that lasted for 3 full days. It was a time of feasting, games, and shared company. The Pilgrims and their Wampanoag guests came together to enjoy the fruits of their labor and the bounty of the land. The air was likely filled with the sounds of conversation, laughter, and the crackling of cooking fires. It was a noisy, lively, and joyful occasion, a stark contrast to the quiet sorrow of the winter before. This was a celebration of life itself, a moment of shared humanity between two very different groups of people who had found a way to live side by side in peace. The menu for this feast looked very different from the Thanksgiving dinners many of us enjoy today. There was no pumpkin pie, cranberry sauce, or potatoes, as sugar and potatoes were not available to the Pilgrims. Instead, the tables were loaded with food that was hunted, gathered, and harvested from the surrounding land and sea. When Massasoit and his men arrived, they generously contributed to the feast by bringing 5 deer they had hunted. So venison was a main course, along with wild fowl like ducks, geese, and possibly wild turkey, which were plentiful in the area. The feast was a true taste of New England in the 17th century. Beyond the meat, the feast included a wide variety of other local foods. The Wampanoag and Pilgrims shared dishes made from their successful harvest, including corn, which might have been served as bread or porridge. They also ate beans, squash, and other vegetables from the gardens. From the sea, they enjoyed an abundance of seafood like lobster, clams, mussels, and eels. They also had nuts such as chestnuts and walnuts and wild fruits and berries that they had gathered from the forest. It was a true farm-to-table and forest-to-table meal, a testament to the richness of the land they now shared. The 3-day festival was about more than just eating. It was also a time for entertainment and diplomacy. The Pilgrims demonstrated their military skills by firing their muskets into the air, showing their Wampanoag allies their strength. In turn, the Wampanoag men may have showcased their own skills through traditional dances, songs, and athletic contests like wrestling and foot races. It was a cultural exchange, a chance for each group to learn a little more about the other. For those 3 days, the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag were not just allies, they were neighbors sharing a moment of peace and celebration. The peace and friendship celebrated during that 1621 Harvest Festival were, sadly, not destined to last forever. The alliance between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag was a fragile one, built on the specific needs and circumstances of that moment in time. For about 50 years, there was a period of relative peace, but the world around them was changing rapidly. The success of the Plymouth colony encouraged more and more English settlers to make the journey across the Atlantic. And these new arrivals came in waves, seeking land and opportunity, and they began to spread out across New England. And as the English population grew, so did the tensions between the colonists and the Native American tribes. The two cultures had very different ideas about land. The Native Americans believed that land was a shared resource for everyone to use, not something that an individual could own and fence off. The English settlers, however, believed in private land ownership. They built fences, cleared forests for their farms, and claimed large territories for themselves. These conflicting views led to misunderstandings, disputes, and growing resentment as Native American hunting grounds and farming lands began to disappear under the colonists' expansion. These tensions eventually erupted into a terrible conflict known as King Philip's War, which started in 1675. The leader of the Wampanoag was now Metacomet, Massasoit's son, whom the English called King Philip. He saw that the continued expansion of the colonies threatened the very existence of his people and their way of life. He united several tribes to fight back against the English colonists. The war was brutal and devastating for both sides. It lasted for over a year and was one of the deadliest conflicts in American history, resulting in thousands of deaths and the destruction of many towns and villages. The outcome of the war was a tragedy for the Native American people of New England. Their homes were destroyed, their populations were shattered, and many were forced from their ancestral lands. The fragile peace of 1621 was broken, replaced by a long and difficult history of conflict and mistrust. The story of what happened after the first Thanksgiving is a complex and often sad one. It is an important reminder that history is not always simple. The initial friendship was real and meaningful, but it was followed by a painful struggle that changed the face of America forever, leaving a legacy of loss that is still felt today. The story of that first harvest festival in 1621 was largely forgotten for many years. It was just one small moment in a long and complicated history. The idea of Thanksgiving as a national holiday came about much later. In the 19th century, a writer and editor named Sarah Josepha Hale, who also wrote the poem Mary Had a Little Lamb, campaigned for decades to make Thanksgiving a national day of unity. She believed that a holiday focused on gratitude could help bring the country together, especially as it was being torn apart by deep divisions that would lead to the Civil War. Her dream became a reality in 1863. In the middle of that terrible war, President Abraham Lincoln declared a national day of Thanksgiving to be celebrated on the last Thursday of November, and he hoped it would be a day for all Americans to reflect on their blessings, even in a time of great sorrow and conflict, and to help heal the nation's wounds. The holiday he created was not about remembering a specific historical event, but about fostering a spirit of gratitude and unity. Over time, the story of the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag was woven into this new tradition as a founding myth of American cooperation. Today, Thanksgiving is a time for families and friends to gather, share a meal, and express gratitude for the good things in their lives. The story of the first Thanksgiving has become a powerful symbol for us, but it is important to remember the whole story. It is a tale of courage and hardship, of friendship and conflict, of hope and sorrow. It reminds us of the generosity of the Wampanoag people, who shared their knowledge and saved the Pilgrims from starvation. It also reminds us of the painful history that followed, teaching us that peace and understanding require constant effort. The true spirit of Thanksgiving, then, is about more than just turkey and pies. It is about acknowledging our shared history, both the beautiful and the difficult parts. It is an invitation to practice gratitude, to appreciate the people in our lives, and to recognize our connection to one another. The story of that first feast challenges us to build bridges of understanding and to work for a world where different cultures can not only coexist but also support each other. It is a reminder that even in the most difficult of times, there is always a reason to be thankful and there is always hope for a better future.